obviously you can see the word multiple in it. And so if I, for example, have something like this, x minus 3 to the second power, this 0, so this would be 3, the 0 of that, has a multiplicity of 2. Multiplicity. Something like this, x plus 1 to the third, has a multiplicity of what? Three. So where am I getting that from? Just the exponent, yeah. Because we're saying there's multiple of them, there's multiple of those factors. And so what you might remember from Algebra 2 is that when you have an odd multiplicity, it's going to cross. And when you have an even multiplicity, do you remember what the other word was? I think most of the teachers here use bounce, or sometimes you hear the word like touch and then it comes like just touches it and then reverses as a U-turn. And so you can see this one on the left at A crosses, it's an odd multiplicity. The one on the right at B bounce. And so it's an even multiplicity, meaning that there would be multiple of those factors. Great. Okay, this is important. You got to make sure you read. Reading saves lives. Okay, but we're going to put it in factored form to start. So today we're going to have to solve for A. So we'll say f of x is equal to, remember A is your stretch or shrink, but we don't know what it is, so we're just going to leave it. And then you have 3 zeros, and you have a degree of 3, so that means you're going to have 3 factors. We're going to need that right side, so don't write it too big. Let's see, your zeros are negative 3. What factor does that come from? X plus 3, right? Negative 2 comes from x plus 2, and then positive 5 comes from minus 5. Okay, and then here's the point that we're using. We're using the point f of negative 1 is 6. So that's the point negative 1, 6. This is an x value and a y value, folks. It's just in function notation, and so you're going to take that and you're going to plug him in. Your f of x, or your output value, is 6, so that goes over there. And we're going to solve for A in a second, but let me write this out. So we're going to plug in, what are we plugging in for x? Negative 1. So I'll do that in a different color in a second. Here he is. Negative 1 plus 3, negative 1 plus 2, negative 1 minus 5. And PEMDAS says, please simplify the parentheses. So it would be this. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. Negative 1 down 5 more is negative 6. You can now multiply all of those together. 2 times 1 times negative 6. Negative 12, right? And then you are dividing. If you're someone who struggles, you're going to be like, tell me it's negative 2. It's not. Then actually show the division so you can see it. Negative 6/12 simplifies as negative 1/2, right? Okay, so this is my A value, and that's great and all, but it's had to write it in standard form, which means that you're really only halfway there. Because we know what the factored form would be. Okay, it looks like this. So factored form is now f of x equals negative 1/2 was the A value, so now you're going to plug that back in. And all the rest of that's the same. So what was it? X plus 3, x plus 2, x minus 5. If I ask you to leave it in factored form, then you don't have to do anything else. It's great. If I ask you to put it in standard form, you have to do what we're about to do, which is called expanding, which just means to multiply absolutely everything. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. And I'll highlight like what we do in pieces. So the first bit that we're going to do is, you can only do 2 at a time. So I'm going to do these 2 first. So your note to yourself is that you can only do 2 at a time. Please don't try and do all 3. So I'm going to take this factored form now and I'm going to expand it. Okay, so we'll start with this guy. Let's see, that would be, you're just foiling, right? X times x. I don't know. I'm going to do some of this math in my head. X times negative 5 is negative 5x, and then you also have to do 2 times x, so that's going to be negative 3. I'm combining like terms in my head, okay? So if you can't do that, then you could write out both terms. And then 2 times negative 5. Negative 10. All right. But when you initially multiply, there'd be 4, and then you combine. Or do it in your head. You're getting to the point now, if you're a senior and you've been foiling for like 4 years, that you can probably do some of that stuff in your head if you want to challenge yourself a little bit. Okay, and then negative 1/2 is still out in front. Boo. Okay, and you're not done. So now we've got a binomial times a trinomial. Usually when you see this, you can multiply however you'd like, but I tend to use a box method when I have to multiply by 3 terms because I make fewer mistakes. But if you hate the box method, then do what you want. I'm not really going to explain it. I'm just going to let you multiply right now. Can you do it? So if you want to do the box method, that's what you'll see me do on the board. Otherwise, you would just multiply out the x, multiply out the 3, and combine like terms. So I'm going to box method here. What is this? I got confused. Hold on, 10x. Then you combine like terms. When you go to combine like terms, you might notice something happens. The squareds, you have positive 3x squared, negative 3x squared, so those cancel out. Yay. Okay, so it's a little bit less terrible. You now have this. Negative 1/2. And then the polynomial I would get from that multiplication is x to the 3rd. I can combine the x's, negative 9 minus 10, so that's negative 19x minus 30. Usually it'd have 4 terms, but the squareds cancel out. And last thing is yes, you have to distribute out the negative 1/2, and then you're done. So it looks like this, because it's still not in standard form right now. You have to get it all the way out like this. Standard form means you have no parentheses and your exponents go high to low. So positive 19/2, that's not very nice, is it? This one is, though. Positive 15. So you would say f of x is equal to that. This is your final answer, because answer the question. It said to write it in standard form. This is standard form vocab today. Which we started with before we did all the multiplication was factored form. And this is standard form. I will ask you for both on your homework, so read. Because if I ask you for factored form and you do all of this foiling out, gross. Why? That you did way too much work. So read it and make sure I'm actually asking you for standard form before you do all of this. Because I'm not going to ask for it every time. That would take way too much time. All right, it looks like this. So you'll leave the a out in front, and then it would be x minus 4, but you have it 3 times. So I'm going to write it out like this right now, x minus 4 to the 3rd power. And later we'll expand it out, but for now I don't want to expand it out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and plug in this point. The point we're plugging in is 2, negative 24. So the output is negative 24. That goes in the f of x. And then is equal to a. And your x value is 2. All right. Common mistake would be trying to distribute the exponent. Bad. We don't do this. PEMDAS says p, parentheses. You simplify inside the parentheses first. So it's negative 2 to the 3rd. So if you need to make a note for yourself, PEMDAS. P comes first, and then exponents, okay? All right, negative 2 to the 3rd is, you could do in your head, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, or you can know that, like, right, if I'm doing 2 to the 3rd, it's 8, odd exponents, stay negative, it's negative 8, right? You could do it in your calculator, but you have to use parentheses if you type it in. Otherwise, you get it wrong. Probably, maybe not. Okay, divide by negative 8, and you get a to be 3. And that's great and all, except you have to answer the dang question. It said to actually give it in standard form. So you're only halfway there. First, you're going to write your factored form. Here he is, factored form. Factored form looks like this. F of x is equal to, what's our a value? 3. And then you have x minus 4 with a multiplicity of 3. If you're going to expand it, that means you now have to put x minus 4 how many times? 3. And you guessed it, you're going to have to do a lot of multiplication again. Okay, now these are notes, and I trust that you can probably multiply because we started the year with that. But I'll just highlight, okay, if I'm going to do this, here's what order I would do it in. I usually will choose the last 2 first. If you think that's weird, you could do the first 2 first. So I would like multiply those out, and I'll just kind of do it in my head. That'd be, you have negative 4x and negative 4x, so it becomes negative 8x. And then negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. If you took pre-calc last year and you actually memorized the rule for a binomial to the 3rd power, then woo! This would be when you'd use it. If you're someone like me who really sucks at memorizing rules like that, you just FOIL it out. I can't do it. I mean, I could if I really tried, but I don't want to. Okay, and that's equal to this. Okay, so choose your own adventure. You can either use regular old distribution or you can use the box method. I am not going to do this multiplication for you. I'm going to let you do it. Go ahead and multiply it out and get to this step. And you are not done until you've distributed out the 3. So can you get the next line? Okay, when you think that you have it, you can check it. It's not in standard form until you distribute out the 3. Then you're done.